Hey guys, we have a special guest at the Tavern today. You can find him every Tuesday on NWA Power on Fight TV. Mr. Kyle Davis. Kyle, what's going on, man?
Absolutely nothing. I love the graphics and all the purple and pink and stuff like that. That's my colors. Those are my jams. I am feeling this right now.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome.
We like that old school Miami Vice 80s vibe, man. That's what we try to go with.
I mean, I've never done cocaine, but watching that, it felt like I did.
Yeah, I just want to be in a convertible driving down the coastline, suitcase full of cocaine, maybe a pistol in the seat.
Socks when you're wearing a blazer? No, you don't need socks. You just need shoes, a white suit coat, maybe a pink t-shirt underneath, and then you're going to be rocking life.
Right, man. Yeah. So let's jump right into it. NWA 73 in St. Louis at the end of August and the first ever all women's pay-per-view. How stoked are you to be a part of such a huge weekend that's going to really cap the summer off for wrestling fans?
I'm super excited about it. When Billy made the announcement right next to Mickie James, I had no idea what we were going to be talking about there. All she said was, hey, real quick, I'm going to go out there and then I'm going to say some stuff and then you just, be there. So I literally had no idea what the announcement was going to be when we made it. NWA 73, fantastic, an anniversary show, unlike anything we've had before. I was a part of NWA 70, which was pretty much before it was an on-camera part of it. I was just helping out, kind of running things there. But to be a part of the company now, where we've gone, that's going to be exciting as all hell. I have no idea what the main event's going to be, but I've heard rumors that it's going to be kind of based around Harley Race. So, Nick's got that background and things like that. I don't know what's going to happen wrestling at the Chase. And then we get to Empower. Now, the thing that really drove me about that was representation. By the way, I could talk and I'm just going to keep on going. So if you don't shut me up, it's just going to keep on happening. But the representation part of that is, growing up as a male, I always had people that I could watch on the screen when I was a child that I could emulate and try to be like. In fact, a lot of my favorite wrestlers were people that I either saw something similar to who I felt I was as a kid or somebody I wish I could be as an adult. And I think one of the big issues is that, women haven't had that for a large portion of society. And, growing up now, wrestling is finally getting to the point where there is representation. And this all women's pay-per-view, it's a pity that it's had to come to, we need an all women's pay-per-view. They should just be happening. It shouldn't be a major deal when it does occur. But now that it is, I love the representation of that and the fact that there's probably a little girl there that's been subjected to watching wrestling because her dad's a fan or something. And then she's going, oh my God, that's somebody that I could grow up. I could be strong. I could be assertive. I could be powerful. I could be technical. I could be an athlete. All things that women are already, but that they never really had somebody to emulate and be like. So I think it's great. And I'm glad that we're a part of it. Mickie James is going to go down as a legend in the professional wrestling business. To her be the producer and to be picking the talent, I mean, the sky's the limit about what this could be.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what a coup to have Mickie James come in and really Billy kind of hand the keys over and let her really try and make this thing something special. And I have a feeling like we're going to see some big surprises at that thing, and fans are going to be stoked when that rolls around. I
mean, you brought up fans. That's another thing I'm excited about. Everybody mentions it. I think we all are aware there was a global pandemic for like a year and a half. It's still happening. There's still things going on. There's variants, there's life, there's still challenges depending on where you are. But one of the big things is that wrestling was kind of put on hiatus. We got put on hiatus. Other companies were able to survive and sustain because their owners had their own little area where they had a sports venue, or there was another guy who had a production place that he could film in, and there was us. We didn't have that. So we kind of got put on hold and we had to put the brakes on. We had such momentum that just got frozen when everything happened. So this will be our first real foray back into everything that could have happened. Crockett Cup was our last major pay-per-view that was supposed to have a live audience, and that got canceled because of COVID. So this is kind of our welcome back. St. Louis, history for the NWA, wrestling at the Chase, and now we're going to be able to share that with the fans. If you're not going to be there in person, you can get it on pay-per-view. You can witness history being remade live in person or live on the comfort of your own home.
I love that we have that option now to where if we want to go to an event, there are events to go to, man. It's absolutely. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, we're gonna double back around on NWA, but one thing I'm really interested in is just a lot of people in the business obviously they start as fans. So what was that early fandom for you? Who were your guys? What company were you keeping your eye on as a kid when you first started falling in love with pro wrestling? What were you watching? Who were you loving?
So obviously, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. Everybody tells me I got a little bit of an accent. I live in the South. I'm Atlanta now, but I grew up in Connecticut. I'm a New Englander. I'm a Northern boy. So we didn't even have NWA where I grew up. It was all WWF. It wasn't until I was a little bit older and I was in my early teens that I was a cool video store. That's right, kids, video store, not a Blockbuster, a mom and pop video store. You know, the cool ones with the curtain in the back where you could get the nice videos too. But they had a wide selection. It was random videos, and there was a lot of NWA from the late 80s and WCW from the early 90s videos there, and I fell in love with that product. So my first foray in the business, of course, WWF. It's all I had. So I grew up, I remember my dad took me to Hartford Civic Center, where the Whalers used to be before that wasn't a thing anymore. And I think I saw Hogan and Big Boss Man in the steel cage match. And my little brain was blown. My dad tells the story, you know, when he was with us still, that he'd be like, it blew my mind that there'd be adult men wearing suits and ties that were businessmen in the front row losing their shit, watching these two men beat the hell out of each other in the ring. He's like, it just, and then I got a little bit older. And, you know, as you get older, things that once upon a time were cool as a kid, you start being like, I'm trying to become an adult. So the things I like as a child, I shouldn't be doing those anymore. And then ECW came along right when I was a teenager. And when ECW hit, found it in the middle of the night. And it was just Shane Douglas and Rey Mysterio Jr. doing hurricanranas off the hood of a car while it's snowing outside in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I fell in love with that product. I fell in love with Tommy Dreamer because I was kind of a loser kid who never thought he could amount to anything. And here Tommy was being the underdog, the guy who would take a licking and keep on coming back. He didn't always win. He just got his ass kicked, but he still fought back. And I had a look like I was a heavy set kid, but once I started losing weight, I got in better shape. And I was like, I kind of can pull off that Tommy Dreamer weird, pretty boy, but not pretty boy thing. Cactus Jack, he could talk. Another guy who took just abuse. And then Shane Douglas, you know, I was just a huge fan of because, you know, I thought he was cool. I liked his personality. I thought he had a good look. And I was like, man, I wish I could be like that guy. And then there was Taz, who being a short guy and stocky, I was like, holy shit, I could be an angry person at like 5'9". That's amazing. And just the storylines and everything, it appealed to the teenage years of me. And then I got back into wrestling with that. And I fell in love with that product.
So when did the moment hit you, you know, because obviously you're doing interviews for NWA now, but you got into wrestling. You were wrestling. You were a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I used to wear spandex and kick people in the dick. Right, that's right.
Right. So how did that transition happen, and how did ROH come along?
So it ties back into ECW. They had the anniversary show. I used to go down to the ECW arena and watch shows back in the early 2000s before it went out of business. 99, 2000. I was old enough to travel from Connecticut to Philly and watch shows. And I just fell in love with that. So when the reunion happened in 2005, my cousin and I, my cousin's a diehard wrestling fan. I always say if he was athletic, he'd be amazing in the business. He's got a mind for it. He's just not, you know, he's not going to be running miles or anything like that. But when it comes to wrestling, he's like, the man could be a booker or whatever he wants. Him and I ended up going down to Philadelphia for the reunion show, which was Hardcore Homecoming. It was the Shane Douglas ran show. We had tickets to the One Night Stand WWF produced show that weekend as well. And then ROH ran a show the afternoon of the WWF ECW show. And that was my first foray into Ring of Honor, was at that random show where they're like, let me try to get that audience here. It's like what they do on WrestleMania weekends now everywhere. Every company runs a show because they know people are going to be in the area, so they might as well come to it. So I hit the ECW arena, then we went to an ROH show, and we went to that ECW One Night Stand, which was 3 awesome shows. While at that Ring of Honor show, I fell in love with that company too. I was like, feels like ECW used to be as far as like the athleticism goes and the attitude and everything. And we started going to shows on the East Coast for Ring of Honor. And at the time they were placing these little placards on the seats, which were, hey, we have an ROH Academy. Why don't you come down to the Academy? Why don't you train with us? Austin Aries was the trainer when I started looking at it. and I kind of dragged my ass, even though everybody was saying, hey, you've got a personality, you want to do this, go do this. And I've always been very risk adverse. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't have the money. My girlfriend at the time, her parents took out a loan and gave me the money so I could go to wrestling school. So I finally shit or get off the pot. And at that time, Brian Danielson was the trainer. The first thing I did with Ring of Honor, there was a Kenta seminar. And if that isn't proof of how I was going to work out in the business, I was late to the seminar because I got lost. I also never really worked out. So when it came time to doing like squats and push-ups and everything like that, not for me. It took about 6 months to finally get into the shape to be able to train properly. And then I blew out my shoulder. And by the time I came back from my injured shoulder, Brian was gone. And Shane Hagedorn had to finish it up. But I finally had my first match after a year. And I was pretty much a staple with the Ring of Honor pre-shows, which is where a lot of the students that trained at the academy, Rhett Titus, Grizzly Redwood, Alex Payne, Shane Hagedorn, Bobby Dempsey, Ernie Osiris, Dolly Primo. Those are my boys. Still are my boys. We still got a chat where we talk shit about everything. But that was how I came into it, and I was wrestling there, and everything just started working out for me, except for the fact that I've always kind of been a smart ass. I was a pretty boy. I had hair. I was awesome. You should see pictures. My tattoos were crisp and they were bright, and now they're faded and middle-aged. Regardless, insecurities coming out right there. I used to bust Gabe Sapolsky, who was the guy who ran the company's balls all the time, because if he put on a dress shirt, I'd be like, oh, look, you're trying today. That's just who I am, which is a very bad way to be when you're breaking into anything. Is, I always had the Mick Foley adage, which is like, if you want to be a star, you got to act like a star. And that stuck with me in kind of all the wrong ways. So I was working for Ring of Honor, and then I met Dave Marquez and Adam Pearce and Dave Marquez. I met them in Las Vegas when ROH was running a show out there. And Dave Marquez was like, hey, I'm running the NWA stuff. He was the main promoter for the National Wrestling Alliance. This was like 12, 13 years ago. And he's like, I'd love to have you aboard. You got a great personality. And so I started working shows in the NWA portion of the Northeast for Liberty States with Ricky O, who was one of the promoters there too. And I had a group called the Players Club. We were a bunch of idiotic heels. We wore black and purple. Danny D'Amato, who was one of the forces behind GCW and a number of other companies, he was one of my guys in my stable. It was just one of those things where we got to be idiots, and I loved every minute of it. But the truth is, I was never a great athlete. I never put everything into it that I should. A guy like Rhett Titus, you look at him, the guy's a freaking, Adonis. He's chiseled, he's skilled, he's a great athlete, and he's got all the talent in the world, because when we weren't doing Ring of Honor shows, he was working 4 matches every weekend in every other promotion that he could find. He would travel, he'd put the work in, he'd do that. Remember, I'm risk adverse. So if I need to pay a bill, I'm going to be like, I'd rather be a server this weekend because I could pay my bills with that, other than trying to make a name for myself in wrestling. Wrong attitude to have. You're never going to get anywhere if you're not willing to sacrifice. I was not willing to sacrifice. So I pretty much was always mediocre. I had a lot of personality. I wasn't doing flippy shit. And then we got the ROH on HDNet TV show, and Adam Pearce was the booker for Ring of Honor at the time. He had just taken over. By the way, I'm wearing my Adam Pearce t-shirt right now. I don't know if you can see that, but he's bloody on that. Work hard, treat people fairly, earn respect. That's right. I'm an Adam Pearce guy. Adam goes, Kyle, I just got to tell you, man, you're the shits in the ring. And I was devastated. I was like, Jesus Christ. And he goes, well, hear me out. You can talk. A lot of people can't talk. That is something that you have that can't be taught. That's a skill that you can't just learn.
Absolutely.
He's like, I want you to be our Mean Gene for the HDNet show. And I was like, damn it. And he's like, just think it over. I remember Austin Aries telling me, listen, you don't need to get beat up. You don't have to take bumps. You'll be on segment every episode guaranteed. You don't have to do anything other than just have a personality. And he was right. So I took that position, and him and Dave Lagana, who was the producer of ROH at HDNet at the time, and also former producer amongst other situations for the NWA, they helped kind of shape me into being a personality as well as a broadcaster. And the rest is history. I stopped wrestling. I started putting on a suit and tie, and I started making funny faces in reaction to people.
So what's that like when someone has that come to Jesus type of situation like Adam Pearce, and he tells you your shit's in the ring. And at that moment, you're probably thinking, that's your dream. You want to be a pro wrestler. What is it like coming to terms with that? And did you feel like, no, I want to keep trying, or did you pivot? Did you take the advice immediately, or how did it make you feel when that happened?
It was soul crushing, but it was one of those things where it was also very honest. And I think it's great to have somebody be honest. I also always find it funny now that I look like Adam Pearce, and at the time I didn't. So it just so happens. But no, he was dead honest with me, and he did the thing that I think is the key when you want to break some bad news, but realistic news to somebody, is you kind of just peel the Band-Aid off, and then you give them something that's a positive follow-up, which was you're not built for this, but this other thing, there's 1,000 wrestlers. There's only this many people that could actually do this other thing, and you're capable of it. So it took time, but I slowly did get more comfortable with that. And then next thing you know, you're doing stuff with like Jerry Lynn, a guy I used to watch at ECW that was working with us, Ring of Honor, and it'd become time to do a promo, and he'd be like, I just don't know what to say. And I'd be like, try this. And then next thing you know, you're producing talent, people that you respect that excel in one way, and then you kind of fill in the gaps with them. And then you realize, like, I'm an integral part of building this entertainment aspect. You help in your own little way. And then once you realize that, you go, oh my God, I have worth. I think a lot of people feel their worth is one thing, and then when they're told or discover that it's not, it's very hard to understand that, well, what do I have now? To find something that I was comfortable and decent at was a godsend. It really did help give me self-worth, which is also very negative, because your self-worth should never be tied into anything that just random people interjected, because next thing you know, it's very important to you how people feel about you. And that's right. If you have social media, that's not a good way to be in this day and age.
Right.
Which also led to, when AT got canceled, it led to me pretty much just leaving the business, because I didn't know how to cope with failure. Everything had always worked out.
Now, when you transitioned from wrestler to being on the mic, this is kind of a personal question for me.
I'm an open book. I don't care. Whatever you ask me, I'll answer.
So the internet millionaire gimmick that you had was you had the long blonde hair, man. What was the transition where you're like, you know what, I'm shaving my head now? Because we have the same barber, I feel like I can ask that question.
So if you see all these like random promos, I think some of them exist online. I had an internet millionaire gimmick, which was pretty much the dude who ran Girls Gone Wild. I looked like a skinny Randy Orton. I had at one point I had short bleach blonde spiky hair. I had a mohawk at one point, but I was a pretty boy. And my whole premise was, I sold this internet-based company for a butt ton of money. Now I can't tell you what it was, but what I would give you more information, but those girls would be a lot hotter and a lot wilder if I still ran that son of a bitch right now. And it was just like, so like if we were running a show and there was a helipad somewhere and a helicopter was landing, I'd get close to it and film a promo so it looked like I was getting off the helicopter. It was all these things where I was trying to build up a character. And it's funny because at the time, like nobody was really using YouTube or anything like that. Now that's how everybody gets over, is you use YouTube. I remember asking Lance Storm was at a show, and I was like, hey, Lance, he's somebody I respected. I'd be like, what do you think of me doing these videos? And he's like, I think you're wasting your time. I think you should get better in the ring. And, now people's careers are based off of social media. So
right.
Just goes to show, like the Young Bucks used to be told, don't do a bunch of super kicks or do dumb things. And then they started doing them and everybody fell in love with them and they became stars. So do what you think works and then just pull the trigger. But as far as segue.
Don't ask a technical wrestler about promo work. Like
it was entertaining.
So great. Yeah. But
the hair thing happened once I left wrestling. I was living in Orlando at the time. I was at a gas station and I was waiting in line. And I don't know if you've ever been in one of those gas stations as the camera kind of pointed at the register. You can see like the back of people and you can kind of look up. And I remember looking up and seeing the top of somebody's head and being like, oh, that son of a bitch I should shave my head. It was me. And it was just that. Now, I always say if I was like 6'4", I probably still would have hair because nobody would notice I had thinning hair. But once I did that, low self-esteem, I was like, I'll get rid of this shit. It's better to have a choice like this It'd be like, oh, that guy's got that weird patchy thing. Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh no, I
he's
get it,
hanging
man.
on.
That's the same thing for me. I was washing my hands and looked up in the mirror, and I could see my head. It looked like a barcode, and I was like, that's it, man.
Time to let it go.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather be completely bald at this point, just so I don't have to maintain this because it's annoying. But
Yeah.
I mean, damn, hit that shit in air or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, you were at ROH around the time they were kind of partnered with Darren Aronofsky and the Wrestler production, right?
Yes, we helped film that in Dover, New Jersey. The main event of The Wrestler was filmed in Dover, New Jersey, a little Spanish town in the middle of New Jersey.
What was that experience like, being on set with these Hollywood? Mickey Rourke is an eccentric gentleman. I'm a bit of a film buff, and we all know he's a little bit of an eccentric gentleman. So how was it on the set of The Wrestler when you were there?
It was super cool, and we were all trying to get on camera. In fact, they even had one day where they're like, we're going to do a locker room scene. So all of you who are here, just be ready. And then we're going to make sure you're all in the background, because we also helped out in ring crew and all these other things. And it was like 10 hours into the day and nothing had happened. It was a Wednesday, which is comic book day. And I was like, screw this shit. I'm going to buy new comic books. Everybody have a good time. And then the final cut, when they finally got ready to film, like another 4 hours after that, I think you see Brett Albright and Bobby Dempsey in the background, and Bobby's like pushing a broom. That was it. So I made the right call. I went and bought comic books and enjoyed myself. Marissa Tomei was gorgeous in person. Had a really awkward thing. We had a guy that was training with us that we nicknamed Seaball, which is really funny to see. Seaball is a steroid, and this guy never took steroids. You could tell. He was a character. And somehow, this is going to be really weird, he had a lot of fetishes that somehow would come up. And it just so happened that somehow his pantyhose fetish got brought up in the middle of us being at the taping for The Wrestler. And Marissa Tomei came into the room. And me being me, just decided, let me try to make him feel awkward. And it's like, Marissa, how do you feel about pantyhose fetishes? And she was like, I don't know, guys. I just, and then about 2 minutes later, an AD came in and said, guys, we got to have you clear the area. We're about to film in there. And everybody looked at me and said, good job. You got us kicked out. We then stole the flag. There was a flag that the cat had. He was like Iranian or something like that.
Oh,
You think a major production would have more than one flag? No. You see, somebody accidentally left it around us, and we thought it'd be funny to hide it. And then that led to a whole thing. And when I realized that somebody was about to be fired over it because they couldn't find it, we just did a thing where it's like, did you check this couch cushion? Hold on. It fell on the couch cushion. That's where it was the whole time, man. Here you go.
All the way down in there. Sorry.
Yeah. And then Mickey Rourke was an interesting person. You see, if you get a group of wrestlers together, it's a weird gathering, but it's also kind of, I don't know, overcompensation at times. So you have an actor that's used to everybody kissing his ass. And then you have a guy like Roderick Strong, who is super comfortable with himself and very bro-y, who then decided, it'd be funny if we just kind of made Mickey Rourke feel uncomfortable the entire time we're near him. So him and Brett Albright would be like, hey, bro. And they just would be like, anytime he was trying to do something, they would just appear and kind of like treat him like he wasn't worth anything. And you could see it definitely had an effect on Mr. Rourke. At the end of the tapings, he was running the ropes for like the still photography that you see like in the thing where he's kind of leaned over with his hair down.
Right.
So we just want to break down the ring and go home. It's been a long several days. We're just like, we need to get this done. Let's get the hell out of there. And I remember we were laughing at him because he was so lackadaisically running the ropes, because he just didn't seem like he gave a shit. It's not a criticism of who he is. He just seemed like he didn't care. And that made us be like, look at this guy. And so we started kind of like catcalling and saying things. And they stopped and they're like, guys, Mr. Rourke needs to focus, right now where he's trying to be a character. And we're like, well, you're not filming anything. You're just taking photos. And I remember Grizzly Redwood loudly proclaimed directly to him, people laugh at me all the time. I learned how to deal with it. And then you could just be like, you knew later on when he was petting that chihuahua, he was going to be very defeated. So it was a fun experience. I got to wrestle at the beginning of that show against Ernie Osiris. But for the most part, movies are hurry up and wait. And we did a lot of hurrying up and waiting. And I don't know how the hell people do that without drugs.
Yeah. Now, you brought up comic books. What's some of your favorite comics?
I digitally read just about everything now. All time, huge Daredevil fan. I just like the fact that Matt Murdock was a very flawed character. And like I said, in my youth, I was kind of a womanizer, and he was a womanizer, and he always had failed relationships, and he messed up everything he touched, depending on who was writing it. So it was just things like that. But otherwise, I read just about everything. I don't have like an all-time favorite. Maybe the Claremont run of X-Men, but I try to read everything, and then I find little nuances here and little things like that.
I've always been a big Alan Moore fan. I love all of it. The Swamp Thing stuff, the Killing Joke.
Oh yeah.
From Hell, I love Alan Moore.
I love John Constantine Hellblazer. That was one of my favorite comics, and if it wasn't for that Swamp Thing run, he would have never been interjected into any of that. So
right. So back to NWA. You did wrestle for NWA back before this current regime. So what was it like getting the offer to come back and work for them in a different capacity? It's almost like a full circle type of thing for you.
Yeah, I worked for the NWA when it was a very fractured promotion. It was 2009, 10, 11, I think, when I was working in the Liberty States thing. I got to wrestle Sid Vicious at the time because he was feuding with my group.
Wow.
Like things like that were fun. It was super cool. But I've never even seen most of the footage we filmed because it aired in syndication in different New England markets, and it was places that I didn't get it. So it would just be like, I think it was NWA on Fire was the name of the program. But it was super cool to be a part of that. Like Tristan Gallo, I got to work, who is now Marty the Moth. So when I got to see him at an AEW show in Florida a couple of weeks ago, I was like, holy shit, Marty. He's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
This is how weird it was at the time. They had just brought in a young tag team called the Young Bucks, who were feuding with another tag team called the Logan Brothers. I remember Marquez being like, these Young Buck kids, I think them and the Logan Brothers are like the wave of the future in this. And they were just on the card. It's just so funny to see like how much time everything changes. So to be brought into the NWA now as the broadcasting aspect of it and helping out, I'm not going to lie. I think I got the job because I knew one of the guys that was running it, and he knew me from Ring of Honor, Lagana, and also I was local. So it was one of those things where he called me and he goes, hey, would you be interested in getting back into wrestling? And I said, oh, yeah, I would absolutely love it. And he goes, good. I told Billy Corrigan that. So we're going to use you when we can. And the rest is history. Like I said earlier, NWA 70, I was there helping out backstage and doing little production things here and there and basically being a runner for them. And then slowly but surely, as NWA Power came in, there was more opportunity. Billy started realizing like, hey, I actually like Kyle. And so he uses me for a lot of stuff now. It's really nice to be a part of a thing that's such tradition, but also has such a future. And how cool is it to work for a rock star?
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's just one of those things.
And a super fan. I don't think a lot of people that know Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins realize like he is a lifelong super fan.
Yep. He grew up watching wrestling, and that's why like he's been involved with TNA. He now owns NWA. I believe he had some other connections with some smaller things that were more over the Chicago area at one point, if I remember properly, but I can't remember properly all the time, so who knows. But Billy, like people kind of think like, why would he have this? It's just because he loves it. And he makes the NWA really what it is. And so if you love or hate something, there's a good chance it's Billy's fault.
So walk us through shooting days within the NWA Power. Like, what's the workflow like? What's the energy like on shooting days?
It's great to be in a locker room that everybody in production and everybody on the roster isn't an asshole. You have no idea what it's like. Everybody has a job. Every workplace has somebody that you're like, oh God, I hate that guy, or that woman's a pain in the ass, or why am I here? Well, it's none of that. It's fantastic. We pretty much just do a production meeting. We go over everything that's going on, and then we just start filming. And I never did ring announcing before, and then all of a sudden I had to start doing that about 2 cycles ago. So I'm trying to do all the promos with everybody and also call everything on that, and it's a challenge. I always want to do commentary, and I got to do commentary once with Wade back when he was with us before NXT. That was a blast. But then like I had to do one thing that was an intro I had to throw to Joe Galley, who was doing something at the podium, and I just couldn't get the words out. I'm like, holy shit, this is hard. So I think I need to stick with just the doing interviews and cutting promos because, man, challenge.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, you talked about NWA having tradition, but the thing I love about NWA is it really has its own unique flavor right now within the pro wrestling industry. And I think as a fan, when I was a little kid growing up on studio wrestling, the one thing that sets NWA Power apart from all the other promotions right now is the Podium promo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the man at the podium. You're with these performers. What is it about the old school Podium promo that makes it special compared to the way other modern day promotions present their promos? What is it about that Podium?
So it's one of those things where we joke about it, and Billy's made the comment before where it's a sink or swim type of situation. If you work for WWE, you're pretty much used to doing things a certain way, unless they have a lot of faith in you, then you can kind of be who you are verbally and vocally. But like AEW feels like it's got a good vibe where you can pretty much be yourself and you have some freedom on that to create. But the Podium thing is such a controlled environment, and it can be so unnatural for some people. And I think that one of the things that I try to do is make people feel comfortable, and it also is reactionary. There's a purpose to where we're going, but every now and then you'll get somebody who's like, what do I say when I get out there? I'm like, I'll just say things and then you play off it and then be prepared because I'm going to do the same to you. Like some people are really good at it. Like I could pretty much talk with Nicologist for like 15 minutes and not even worry about it. Same thing with Trevor, Slice Boogie. I mean, there's a shit ton of people on our roster that can just fly on the whim. And I think that's really one of the things that makes us so different is those Podium interviews. They just feel like it's a different presentation. And you get to be kind of like this is a little glimpse into who this person is.
Yeah. And you feel the pressure, which makes it that much more like it's in the moment. It feels so organic. And that pressure situation, it's almost like, Saturday Night Live. When something is live, I know it's live to tape, but it feels so in the moment. And you talk about going back and forth with these guys. You have to be thinking on your feet. I mean, has anyone ever said something to you in a promo where it almost catches you off guard and you kind of have to stop and think or laugh about it?
So that's the other thing about this is I feel that we are entertainment, we are athletes, but everything else is, the more reality that interjects itself into it, the more you can feel that and the more believable it is.
Absolutely.
And you will see me react to things. I always hated, you watch WWE or something and the interviewers kind of are just there to hold a microphone. I grew up on the ECW stuff. You watch Joey Styles. Joey Styles would roll his eyes. He would react. He was a smart ass. He would literally ask questions, but he reacted like a human being would. Sometimes he'd say something and the reaction he got from what he said, he'd be like, I messed up. And then he'd have to kind of be like, backpedal. Mean Gene Okerlund. I got to meet Mean Gene Okerlund once. It was when I was running a Hard Rock Cafe. I wasn't even doing stuff for wrestling. He was there for an autograph signing at my restaurant. And I remember just talking to him for a few minutes and told him like, hey, I just want to let you know, I love the work you've done. And the example I always give about what a broadcaster can do to change kind of the vibe or the feel or the flow of something is I always remember before the NWO, which today is the anniversary, woohoo, 25 years.
25 years.
25.
I always remember like the year before that, Hogan, it was a Nitro, was coming down. Okerlund's at the bottom of the ramp and the crowd is booing Hogan being there, who's like one of their biggest baby faces. And Okerlund kind of goes, the crowd obviously upset with the way the world is, but happy to see Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, thanks for joining us. And he painted it as if that obviously Hulk Hogan, they're just pissed about what's going on around them. And that was amazing to me because it really did change the setting. And by the way, if you hear a weird noise, that's my dog chewing a bone under the desk. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's one of those things where being a broadcaster, being an interviewer, you have the ability to paint a picture on a palette of what we're trying to do. It's the same thing with with people that are doing commentary. You can interject and make things make more sense and control the narrative and bring things to a certain direction. It's just at the podium, I have a set time limit, this little infantile moment to get that point across, that if somebody's not getting there, try to rein them back and get them to where we need them to be in a realistic manner, which it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah, that speaking of Mean Gene, I always think of that when Ric Flair won the Rumble and he's interviewing Ric Flair and the guys in the back, and the subtle little thing he says where he looks off camera and he's like, "Hey, put that cigarette out." Like he's talking to someone behind the camera. Little things like that add so much.
Well, even watching a couple of years before he passed, I met him at a convention and I watched people. He had it set up to where you could pay $100 and cut a promo with him.
That'd have been amazing.
And so I watched these people come up and they would be, small town indie wrestlers just wanting to get that promo with Mean Gene, and they were terrible. And he made them look like stars, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a learned thing to know how to carry yourself in a certain way. My biggest fear is, thankfully, it's because of Eric Bischoff. And Eric Bischoff, if you've ever seen his interview kind of test run for WWF back in the day, where they hand him a broom and just doesn't know what to do. That's always been my fear, is not knowing how to interact and just freezing. So thankfully, watching somebody else have that experience, it's always in the back of my head to just be ready no matter what happens. Like if something insane happens in front of me, am I going to ignore that? That's not human. Like you react to it. If you don't react to it, people are going to be like, this feels off. So it's just being realistic and being honest. Like every time Tyrus grabs my head, there's pressure on there. I don't know what the hell's about to happen, but you'll see it in my eyes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Now we have, I think NWA Power and the promos there are some of the best in the business right now. Nick Aldis cutting fire promos left and right.
The man's a beast.
Exactly. We have a debate show, and one of our recent topics was, what is more important to a pro wrestler, in-ring skills or mic skills? What do you think about that question? Would you say in-ring?
It's different for everybody. It is different for everybody. Dynamite Kid couldn't talk. Dynamite Kid outside of the ring was not the best person, but in the ring, the man was a machine and was an athlete. Like my favorite wrestler of all time is Dean Malenko. Dean Malenko is one of the driest, funniest people that you'll ever meet. But on camera, he's just kind of there. But in the ring, he's a technician unlike any other. He got over from being a wrestler. I remember when he was PWI 500 #1 because of his wrestling skills. Everybody was pissed about it, but I was like, yes, Steve Malenko, #1.
Yeah.
One of my friends works for AEW, and randomly I got a call on my birthday this year, and it was just a phone call, and I hear, "Is your refrigerator running?" And I recognized the voice, and I was like, I believe it is, sir. And he goes, Jesus, you just called me sir. This just ruined the whole fucking thing. And he's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good, Mr. Malenko. He's like, please don't call me Mr. Malenko. And he just had a conversation with me. My friend was like, hey, my buddy's a huge fan. Can you call him? And I was like, holy shit. But like that man was a wrestler. And the character aspect of it wasn't that strong unless he was ripping off a mask of Cyclope and, winning battle royals. Like Jericho can talk and he could wrestle. Shawn Michaels could talk and he could wrestle. The Rock can talk and, depending on who he was working with, could wrestle.
Right.
Like everybody has their own thing that they bring to it. It's either it's like having stats in a video game. Like if you ever played Final Fantasy, what do I want to build up on this? Do I want to build up this aspect or this aspect or this aspect? It's a balancing act, but there's certain people that literally have gotten over for no other reason than that they could talk. And there's other people that have gotten over because they can work. And at the end of the day, it's up to that individual to run with their strengths and what people, just latch onto. So I think they're both super important. One is not more important than the other. You can be taught to be a great athlete, but again, you either have a personality and can talk or you can't. It's very hard to develop that skill.
Right. Yeah. I almost think the mic skills sometimes is harder for people than the taking bumps.
Yeah, and the weird thing is the business is physical. So you either want to see somebody kick somebody's ass or you want to see somebody get their ass kicked. So the physicality of it and everything in the ring, you could tell a narrative to get to there. It's ballet with chairs. If you do right, the movements mean something that can be a certain point to you. But one of the easiest ways to get people pissed off or behind you is to be able to talk. And so at the end of the day, I guess maybe talking is the most important aspect of the business, just for selling people wanting to be there. You got to put butts in seats, as they say. And it's great if you're a monster and you could just plow through people, but that's not a lot of people. Not everybody's a Goldberg.
Right.
Like Goldberg didn't have to talk to get over it. He was just a beast. You have to be able to convey emotions and make people feel like there's a connection there. Because if there's a connection, people will invest in you. And that's the only way to get anything in life, whether wrestling, real life, or anything. The connections and everything else are made through interactions. Getting people to connect to you is the only way you get ahead in life.
Yeah, and I feel like we're seeing something special now with MJF. I feel like he's the next one that's going to take those in-ring skills and the mic skills and be something.
Yeah, I love MJF. I'm super jealous of the fact that I used to wear a scarf that looked very much like that when I was in NWA and had dress shirts and was an arrogant little prick. And I'm always like, oh my God. Somebody one day saw something and they were like, oh my God, that's like that. I'm like, no, that's just two people that have very similar personalities. I was like,
Right.
except that he's a much nicer human being in real life than I was when I was his age.
So NWA right now, I guess, you guys returned recently, a couple months ago, but there's pre-pandemic NWA Power and kind of getting your legs under you again.
Yes.
Is there any
painful?
Name me a few NWA talent, some wrestlers that were there before the pandemic that aren't there that you kind of miss, and name some current NWA talent that maybe the fans that have been watching should keep their eyes on.
So we were hitting such a stride in March of 2020. We had an amazing roster. We had buildup. We had the pay-per-view happening. We were going to have all this stuff. It was going to be levels and levels and levels. And then everything got put on hold. And unfortunately, some people's contracts ran out in that span of time when we were shut down and they went elsewhere. Eddie Kingston, who I've been a fan of since I worked with him in Ring of Honor and went and got milkshakes at Chick-fil-A together because we're both fat kids at heart. It was just one of those things where him being there was amazing. And I was so happy to it. I was like, he could be the next Dusty Rhodes. Him versus Nick would be amazing to happen. And, Homicide being a part of the NWA as well as a producer and an on-talent on air, it's just amazing to me to see people that when I was younger, got to work with and being like in awe of them. And now I'm like, oh my God, we're all still here. But like Eddie Kingston was one of those people. We got LA Knight now, Eli Drake.
Right.
He was money and he is money. He's the $1 million champion. We had James Storm, the cowboy, who's also one of my favorite people. He's just a super nice guy. He could kick ass and take names. We had such a strong group of people that was ready to build everything and go to the next level. And then we got just shut down. When we came back, it was a slow build because it wasn't the same program anymore. It felt different. It was different faces, different experiences. We used Championship Wrestling from Hollywood as a kind of a stopgap. And the show that he had, which I believe was Primetime Wrestling, was the other Marquez show.
Primetime Live,
Primetime Live. Like these were stopgaps to try to get everything to still exist and move slowly. And then like Thunder Rosa would appear on AEW. And that was another thing that got our names out there. It was one of those things where it just took time to build. And this last round of tapings, I felt like it did before COVID. We were hitting a stride. We have an amazing roster between the women and everybody else that are there. Like I mentioned Slice Boogie before. Slice Boogie is the next generation Eddie Kingston to me. He is a badass New Yorker who can talk and also beat ass in the ring. Hawks RE are one of the greatest tag teams I've ever witnessed. I was just watching him the other day. Colby Carino's now a part of our roster. I knew his dad, Steve Carino, from being a fan of ECW, and then I worked with him in Ring of Honor when he was with Kevin Steen. Kevin Owens now. So it's just crazy. Like Colby is going to be a huge star in the business. Slice Boogie is going to be a huge star in the business. Sky Blue is probably going to be a huge star in the business, as is Genocide. It's just crazy the amount of people that are there now, the talent that is just starting to be touched. We have La Rebellion just here.
Oh yeah.
I fucking love Mecha Wolf. I never met Mecha Wolf until last set of tapings. And here I am. We're always like, hey, what's going on, man? Like sending each other messages. Tom Latimer is one of my favorite people. I met Tom when we were doing a pop-up show years ago. It was that David Arquette hair versus hair match. And, I developed a friendship with him. There are things and people that if you only knew how talented they were, they just never got a chance to shine in what they do to be able to have the freedom to do that. That in a couple of years, I feel like you're going to be like, holy shit, these people are stars.
Right. Yeah. I think back to as far as two guys I miss from the pre-pandemic, Zicky Dice is at the top of the list for me.
He's one of my friends. He lives 40 minutes from here, and then we hit the gym every now and then. And one day I'll be on his Twitch stuff, but it's just timing. And frankly, I'm really lazy and don't want to drive out there.
But honestly, like you brought up Slice Boogie. We had him on the show.
Yeah.
Couldn't be a more nice guy, but you can tell he has a fire in his belly for this business.
He can think on his feet too. One of my buddies goes like, this Slice Boogie guy, he walked into a promo and somebody said, how you doing? He's like, I'm hungry. And he goes, I was just like, this is my guy. It's nice to have people here where I'm like, oh, this is somebody who I get along with and I enjoy. And also I'm a fan of their work. It's like, I like Zicky, I got along great with. Royce Isaacs was another one that was there before, who's now in the Wrecking Crew in AEW. He's somebody who's super chill too. So yeah, it's like anywhere else. You're going to make friends. You're going to have people you enjoy working with. The nice thing about the NWA is there's not anybody on the roster where I'm like, Jesus, I don't like this. I don't like that. I literally, and I'm not just selling the company I work for. I'm legitimately happy in a great atmosphere. We take a group shot after every set of tapings, and then, we end up posting those online. And I literally was next to like Sal Renaro and Velvet Sky and somebody else. And I just feel like, man, I feel like we're a fucking family again. And they were like, I know, it's great. It's just one of those things. Like we joke about it on TV every now and then. I'll be like, my pal Sal. Sal is one of my best friends. He's one of the nicest people you're ever going to meet. He's literally your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. He is. Here's another thing I'll tell you about wrestling. And I don't care if it spoils something or not. A lot of the people you're fans of in any aspect of life sometimes are the shittiest human beings you'll ever meet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone I work with is not a shitty human being. It's crazy. Even people that you might hear things about, there's more to stories. And I can tell you that I did have reservations about certain people that we bring in every now and then, and I have conversations with them, and then I do some background information, and I go, okay, sometimes social media is really bad at getting people to go like, oh shit, I don't have all the information here, but I'm going to throw this to the wall. And next thing you know, hey, some people are horrible human beings, and those people are getting dragged through the dirt like they should. But other people, sometimes just de facto through rumor and innuendo, get the same treatment. So it's actually really hard. But then you have to realize that in real life, there's some shitty people. Hey, can you not bark at your brother for chewing bone? You jealous little junkie.
So what's in store for fans and the future of NWA?
Onward and upward. I'm hoping that we could keep on running bigger venues. Like I said, we were supposed to have this great thing going on last year, and then that got canceled because of COVID. St. Louis is coming up. There's going to be a fan fest as well as 4 days of wrestling. I'm so looking forward to being a part of that. And then the sky's the limit. I think one of the most important things to do is fan service. You have to, appreciate that the reason we get to exist and do what we like is because people want to follow that product. And you can't alienate that audience. We are the perfect mishmash of the past and the present put together. We have tradition as well as an eye to the future. Billy is constantly thinking about new things, and thankfully our talent is more than capable of keeping up with everything that needs to happen in the business. I really do see a year from now us becoming something more than we are today, and I think that's the biggest thing. You'll see. I post a lot of Instagram stuff about like working out and stuff because I have body dysmorphia. I literally don't like the way I look. I have no idea if I really look a certain way or not. But the thing I'll post on that hashtag is process over outcome. It doesn't matter where we end up. It just matters that we keep on putting the effort in and making growth and keep on going there. There's no end to this, hopefully. I mean, NWA is the longest running title lineage of any company for professional wrestling. All your favorite wrestling companies at some point in time had something there. WCW was an offshoot of the NWA. WWF exists because someone got pissed off at NWA and said, screw it, I'm going to make my own championship. ECW became Extreme Championship Wrestling from Eastern because of the NWA title tournament. We have been a part of so much history. I mean, even modern day history. Freaking, you got a former NWA champion in freaking Cody Rhodes on AEW. Yeah. He's running a company. It's just one of those things where we have constantly been a part of things, and I'm hoping that as time goes on, we continue to be that thing that is a constant in a stream of chaos.
That's awesome, man. And I'm here for it, and I can't wait to see what happens next, man.
Big Power fans.
Yeah. So before we let you go, we have one final question for you, man. And this is a kind of a thinking question. So the pandemic's over. You guys are making towns again.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the road. You have three wrestlers that you can have in the car with you, alive or dead. Any three wrestlers. Who are you making towns with?
Let's see. I would love Terry Funk to be there. I've been pushing to get Terry Funk at NWA 73, but I think because of his health, that's not exactly going to be a possibility there. Mick Foley, just because I love the way his brain works. And Dean Malenko, because he's one of my favorite wrestlers and he's funny as shit.
That's a hell of a car, man.
Love that car.
I also feel like those three people wouldn't judge at all. There's a lot of ball busting in wrestling. It's very much that kind of athletics attitude, and I've never been good at that. I'm not good at being like super macho male, even though I could really run my mouth and talk some shit, but I can't back it up. So to have somebody where I don't feel like I have to do that, like me and Sauer and I will get along fantastic because we both are so self-pitying. We're always like, hey, are they about to fire us yet? Because have they not realized that we don't deserve this? It's like I didn't put him in there because I get to spend time with him anyway, so it's I waste an imaginary thing. Like there's an old some stand-up comedian had a thing where they were like they're like my wife asked me if you could have dinner with one person, alive or dead, who would it be? And I think he said like Mussolini, and she just got mad at him and she's like, you wouldn't have dinner with me? And he goes, well, I can have dinner with you every now and then, but I guess if we have to play this game, fine, I have dinner with you, but you'd be dead. So it's like you don't want to waste this dream thing on reality.
Right.
And that's what it is. So I'd say that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on the show. Again, NWA Power every Tuesday, 6:05, Fight TV.
What an app. There's so many things on there.
It's amazing.
Less than $5 a month. You can experience all things NWA. You can go back. You can watch the old stuff. I know people are always talking about, I miss the YouTube ability. That's great. We just put a program on YouTube. We have the Race to the Chase coming up, which is very similar to the 10 pounds of gold that got us started and brought the brand together before NWA Power. There will be little things dropped on the YouTube page, but still $5 a month. I don't know about you, but I eat a lot of fast food. That's like,
it's a cup of coffee.
That's half my fast food order. Not even.
Yeah.
And you get a whole month of excitement for that. Yeah, Fight TV is great, even when Logan Paul is punching people in the head.
Well, we'll have to have you back on to talk more NWA. We're so stoked for NWA 73. And
me too.
We wish all you guys the best, and we will be watching.
Fantastic. Keep on watching. Without the fans, we have nothing. Again, you give us purpose. And if we can bring a little enjoyment, a little bit of escape from normal life to you, that's all that really matters. At the end of the day, people's worth is how they feel about themselves, and I need you to enjoy this program so I can feel good about myself. If you're not going to do it just because it's a quality program, I'm going to pity the hell into you, dude. Don't make Nick Aldis cry. He wants you to watch him be champion.
That's a good selling point right there.
Yeah.
Don't make him cry, man.
Yeah, tune in. $5.
$5. Don't make him cry.
I don't know if he would cry. I think Nick is pretty capable. Sauronaro and I will definitely cry.
Well, awesome, man. Again, you always have a seat here whenever you want to come on. If you want to, you're welcome anytime, man.
Hey, listen, I'm free a lot of the time, so it's cool. If you need me, call me. I'll answer.
All right.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, Kyle.
Have a good one, man.
Be safe, guys.